Video by Emmanuel Isaiah Smith.
Hello, good afternoon. It is your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, and today's date is Monday, January 26th, 2025. The time is 4:30 p.m., and I am in Miami, Florida. The topic of today's lecture is America's Image, Part 2, The Stain of Incompetence. And I'd like to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that I tend to do these lectures outdoors, so I may have to raise or project my voice from time to time in order to drown out the background noise. Please adjust your volumes accordingly. I would like to begin this lecture, ladies and gentlemen, by offering some thoughts. As the global community becomes more and more aware of gang stalking, targeted individuals, the operations of clandestine gang stalking, its auspices, the ins and outs of it, its blueprint, where it comes from, what it aims to do, how it could alter society, how it could affect the global community, all of these things that clandestine gang stalking is capable of. As the world at large learns more about this program, and as it starts closing in on it, and not only the program itself, but the people that identify as targeted persons, as the world indeed becomes more aware of what this program is and how it operates, the more you're going to see deflections, sidestepping, and the removal of accountability from the orchestrators, the architects, etc., etc. This program has the potential to catastrophically embarrass the United States of America. Okay, the kind of monumental embarrassment that could take generations to overcome. And mind you, every country's had that. Okay, there isn't a single country under the heavens that hasn't had sequences in its history that it is not proud of, that it wants to learn from, that it wants to move on from. Sometimes it takes hundreds of years for a country to move on, or rather erase the stain of a piece of its history that it's not proud of. You see? And not just countries, but companies, churches, all right, communities, even individual persons may have sequences in their own lives or their own trajectories that they wish to move on from, that they wish to learn from, that they wish to gather from and become better from. When it comes to something like clandestine gang stalking, I mean, America's going to have to teach this in history books one day. I mean, literally, one day, you're going to go into an American high school, or an American high school social studies class, or an American high school sociology class or psychology class, or a college level psychology or sociology or political science class, or maybe a college level communications course. And you're going to open up a textbook in one of these classes, and right there in the academic textbook, you're going to see a mention of gang stalking and its definition. And young people, middle-aged people, people of all ages who decide to go to school perhaps go back to school and earn a credential, an academic credential, a degree. They're going to go back and they're going to have to answer questions on tests and exams about clandestine gang stalking. Okay, you can't run from it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? I can't remember who it was, Leo Tolstoy maybe, the author of the book Leo Tolstoy, the author of the book War and Peace, which is considered one of the most significant books ever written. Okay, War and Peace is a book that is considered to be on the same level of importance as Plato's Republic or Aristotle's Metaphysics, or Virgil's The Aeneid, or Alighieri's Dante's Inferno. I mean, this is one of the most significant books ever written. I mean, it's considered on par with Karl Marx's Das Kapital. Okay, or any book you've ever read that concerned politics or sociology, War and Peace is right there with those books as one of the most important ever written. Okay, the author of that book, Leo Tolstoy, once said, "You oftentimes run into your destiny while trying to avoid it." Okay? And as I sit here in Miami, Florida, I look overhead. It looks like a World War II era plane flying just overhead. A potent reminder of the battle-scarred history of this country and everything that soldiers across the Department of Defense's spectrum, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army Rangers, the parachuters, the helicopter pilots, the machine gunners, the mortar men, the army tank drivers. Okay, all the military personnel over the ages that have gone to war on behalf of this country from a pure sense of patriotism, knowing they could lose their life. Men of all demographic backgrounds and socioeconomic backgrounds all met on the battlefield as brothers in arms to face an enemy that it was told was dangerous to American sovereignty. Now, whether the auspices of the war were just or not, I mean, there are obviously wars that have been fought throughout the history of this country that people have looked at and said that's not a just war. The auspices of which we went to war with this country or this conflict or that conflict were not accurate. And that war should have never been fought. There have been a few of those that America has fought, where it seemed as if it were a patriotic war, but it was actually not. It was more on the war profiteering side, etc., etc. We all know about those now. But every country has gotten into those scuffles and wars and skirmishes that led to a needless loss of life and a needless loss of that country's treasure and the vast cost that it takes to prosecute a war. We've all seen those, but the soldiers went into the war with a genuine sense of patriotism, thinking that what they did, or what they were doing, or what they were getting themselves into, was on behalf of a just and noble cause. Okay? Leo Tolstoy, the writer of the book War and Peace, said, "You oftentimes run into your destiny while trying to avoid that destiny." You see, America has a destiny, and America's got to face that destiny head on. What is America's destiny? Well, to be honest, America's destiny is the same as anybody's destiny that ever lived in primordial times. Adapt or perish. And that's the same destiny that all countries have. Every country under the sun must adapt or perish. That's why every country under the sun has a military. Militaries are there to assist a country in adapting to the times and adapting to the various threats that exist across this planet. So America too must adapt. It must adapt or face a horrifyingly catastrophic blow to its image worldwide. Okay, how must America adapt? Well, it must first understand that if it is to continue on as a sovereign territorial entity, it can't vilify its allies and its enemies to the degree where it implements clandestine gang stalking campaigns in its own border. Namely, those clandestine gang stalking campaigns that its adversaries and allies alike will look upon in disgust and horror. America must adapt to changing times with respect to how it interacts with its own people, because how America interacts with its own people is going to be a proxy, a direct proxy of what its view of humanity is generally. Okay? You can't tell me that a country that puts together clandestine gang stalking campaigns and throws its citizens in cold turkey just to see what would happen, right? You use your extrajudicial clandestine federal forces to throw somebody who's unwitting into a gang stalking campaign. Then you go grab a box of popcorn, you put extra butter on it, and you sit back behind some curtain watching the targeted individual's life degrade right in front of you on a surveillance monitor. And that's your entertainment. Watching a person swashbuckle his way through life because he is constantly being mobbed by signaled stalkers. Okay, you think that's entertaining. Okay, but ultimately all it's going to do is going to have a catastrophic impact on the image of your country. And the reason it's going to have a catastrophic impact on the image of your country is because your hate of humanity is showing. You understand? The kinds of people, the kinds of organization, the kinds of groups that would orchestrate a gang stalking campaign and then actually enable it on somebody, using his fellow citizens as weapons against him, indeed using his very surroundings as weapons against him, okay, in what looks like a modern day version of scorched earth policy, which is a war tactic that was banned by the Geneva Conventions of 1977. So if you're going to do that to people, your hatred of humanity is going to show. Okay? If I'm China, if I'm Russia, if I'm India, if I'm Sudan, if I'm Iran, if I'm North Korea, if I'm Italy, if I'm France, if I'm Germany, if I'm England, if I'm Australia, if I'm Egypt, if I'm Syria, okay, if I'm Bangladesh, if I'm Pakistan, if I'm Mongolia, if I'm one of the Slavic countries or the Baltic countries or the Nordic countries, if I'm Saudi Arabia, if I'm any of those countries, and I find out that this country that I've been doing business with in various capacities, the United States, is putting its own citizens in clandestine gang stalking campaigns, I'm not allowing any of my citizens to visit America. I'm putting strict travel restrictions on the travel from my country to the United States because I don't want none of my people exposed to that garbage. Now, maybe there is something clandestine going on. I'm not worried about it. I'm superior to my gang stalkers. I'm superior to anybody that would use a clandestine signaling mechanism to find ways to cause problems in the lives of other people. I mean, I'm just not terribly interested in falling to such a person or such a group. That's why I put together the EIS Media Group lecture series. You see, that's why I put together the Gang Stalk in Action Live video series. You see, that's why I started Bible Discourses LLC. That's why I started the EIS Media Group, because I'm not about to take a hit from people running around thinking that they found a way to kind of hack society, hack progress, hack aggression by using a bunch of flimsy signals with other people that tell them who to pester and who not to pester, when to go, when to stop, when to go left, when to go right. Okay, I'm not terribly concerned with getting into any back and forth with such people or semantic arguments with such people. Okay, no, I'm not trying to get into a chess match with my gang stalkers. Okay, I won the chess match already. Do you understand? I'm sitting at the chess table alone. There are no stalkers in front of me. They've all fled. You see, this thing has been exposed, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we are on the verge of a civil society, a global society that is able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness without clandestine third-party actors systematically and covertly disrupting your path through this world. A global meritocracy where your skills, talents, abilities, drive, ambition, work ethic, and skills determine your progress through life, and not how well you can bob and weave through various disruptions that third-party gang stalkers are creating for you. That's no kind of life. That's no kind of life. That's no kind of existence. Some of you believe in a creator, some of you don't believe in a creator. Let's assume there's a creator. Do you really think he put human beings, plants, animals, trees, oceans, lakes, streams here on this earth so that a piece of those persons could organize themselves into clandestine mobs and flimsily destroy people's trajectories through this life using a system of signals, verbal commands, symbols, cues, and vehicular maneuvers? Okay? That's what disappoints me about today's church, particularly today's Christian church. Okay, how does the Christian church not step in on this topic? I mean, you don't have to. All right, if you're a Christian church, if you're any kind of church, you don't have to step in on this topic. If the topic is too controversial, or if it threatens to harm your membership numbers, or if it threatens to alienate some of your congregations, or maybe you think it's too conspiratorial, or you'd like more information on it before you start talking about it, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to talk about it at all. I got this. I and other people who identify as targeted persons got this. Okay, do you understand? You don't have to speak on it in the name of Christ. You don't have to speak on it in the name of anybody. Just go about your life, live your life the best you possibly can. Stay out of harm's way, stay out of danger. Let me handle it. It appears I was bred for this moment from the time I was very small, although I'm not sure my parents knew that they were breeding me for this moment, or rather preparing me for this moment, but I was being prepared. Every life experience I've ever had since I was born into this world was to prepare me for this exact moment. And I am winning. I am winning. As a matter of fact, I declare victory because, quite frankly, the thing has been exposed hand and foot. Now, that's not to say that if I were to try to go back to college right away and finish my academic credential that was disrupted 10 years ago, that I wouldn't run into some opposition. It's not saying I wouldn't run into some synchronization, but at least I can document it. Not saying I'd be able to take it to the college's HR department and file a Title IX complaint of some kind about synchronization in the school or instances of gang stalking in the school. They probably wouldn't take such a complaint seriously. Because if you're not a targeted individual, if you've not experienced it on a daily basis for 30 years as I have, you're not going to identify with it. You're not going to sympathize with it. And of course it's an issue that requires ponderance, and you know, if you're a person that identifies as a Christian, that's perfectly fine. Pray on it. Get down on your hands and knees and pray to your God whether it's okay to talk about gang stalking and see what he says. He may not answer you. He may leave it up to you. He may whisper in your ear using the opinings of the Holy Spirit and say, look, don't worry about it. That Smith guy's got it under control. That might be all he tells you. And that's okay. You don't want to jump into a situation that you're in, so you don't want to go into uncharted waters. You guys remember that TV show Star Trek that was popular for about 40 years probably in this country? And I think it's still in syndication, actually. Right? Some of the most creative minds you could ever imagine getting into television and creating a space opera. And that show evolved over time. You remember what the opening sequence to that show said? Boldly go where no man has gone before. All right? Uncharted waters, exploring, discovering. Just like the old explorers of medieval times used to do. Just hop on a big wooden ship and just sail until you find land. Right? If you do find land, go in and subdue the natives and grab the treasure and take it back to your king or queen. Right? Exploration is what I'm talking about here. That's what this gang stalking thing is. It's exploration. You're going into uncharted waters. Just like the TV show Star Trek. Gang stalking is a largely unexplored sociological, socio-political conundrum. And apparently there are some people who are more ready to explore this political problem than others. I mean, me personally, I can't help but to explore it because it's something that I've experienced in heightened levels for the past 10 years. And especially given the fact that I'm here in a what is essentially an international oasis here in Miami, Florida, and I'm still experiencing it. I mean, I had to step on the gas. Okay, I had to get aggressive. I had to do that with the expectation of ridding myself of constant pestering, constant annoying, constant harassment, constantly getting in my way, constantly finding ways to irritate me or anger me or upset me or make me feel like my day has been ruined. That's all gang stalkers do. And they take signals to a targeted person's exact location so they can do just that. That's all they want to do. That's all they have to make them feel like their life is worth a damn at all. You see, and gang stalking offers people the opportunity to pester other people using tactics that are hard to identify as reportable. Right? Aggressive or pestering, hostile or annoying gestures that gang stalkers make constantly to and around targeted persons in such a way that it would be difficult to report it as hostile aggression. You see, they're just these slick, slimy, smarmy, annoying, pestering, sort of Weasley, okay, cowardly, underhanded. I mean, there's so many ways to describe what gang stalkers do when they get near you, okay? But it isn't just that. I mean, I see a lot of that because I'm outdoors a lot. Because, you know, having come to Miami-Dade County, that's why I came to Miami-Dade County, is so I could be outdoors a lot. And certainly so I could observe my surroundings, not necessarily the population here. Okay, I didn't move to Miami-Dade County looking to make racial judgments on people. Okay, I came here so that I could observe the movements of clandestine gang stalkers outdoors often. And because it's fairly warm outside in Miami-Dade County often, I'm able to be outside more, and I'm able to observe my surroundings more, and I'm able to observe the people around me more. And I've gotten more of a grip on what clandestine gang stalking is and how it operates, more so now than ever. Because I've been able to be outside more, but the more I'm outside, the more I have to deal with person to person, or what you might call up close and personal pestering by clandestine gang stalkers. But it doesn't just stop there. I mean, when I was in Dayton, Ohio and Cleveland, Ohio, respectively, I saw quite a bit of pestering at work, and that's called workplace mobbing. And that workplace mobbing was sort of my introduction into gang stalking, and then from there I started seeing synchronization and gaslighting and frequent break-ins, synchronized vehicular obstruction of movement, derived car accidents, deleterious or hostile medical care, deleterious or hostile or dangerous legal representation. I started seeing instances of mimicry, street theater, which, I mean, you just wouldn't believe the street theater I've been seeing over the past 2 weeks. I mean, a lot of it is aimed at my senses or my sensibilities, and it's extremely difficult for me to quantify how exactly this street theater is manifesting, aside from it has a mocking nature to it. It's a hostile, aggressive, hateful, spiteful, annoying, pestering sort of playback or a rewind to scenarios in my personal existence, or scenarios in the existences of people that I've known in the past. So it's just a situation where, you know, there are just some people that just simply don't care about the reputation or the image of their country. I mean, post 9/11, the national security and intelligence apparatus in this country were giving broad and vague and undefined powers by the Congress to conduct these national security investigations and these espionage investigations and these threat identification investigations. And these auxiliaries that were given this power by Congress have essentially run this country down the toilet by essentially mobilizing teams of very swarthy, hostile, surly, uncouth, annoying, pestering stalkers. And apparently these people that I call useful idiots, because they allow themselves and their families to be used as weapons against people that they don't know. I mean, what a way to put you and your family in harm's way needlessly. You see? You've oftentimes heard me talk about these dads, these stalker dads as I call them, taking their families out on stalker expeditions, where the dad takes the wife and the kids out. What the wife and the kids think it's a nice day on the town. but the dad's really looking for signals and giving signals and looking for opportunities to pester people using signals. I don't know, maybe it's to try and look like a big shot or something in front of the wife and kids. I don't know why these guys do this. But eventually they're going to have to say to their wife and kids, hey, you know what? That E.I. Smith guy, he's correct. Gang stalking exists. I've taken you out on stalking expeditions without your knowledge, without your consent. Yes, I, as your father, your husband, put you in harm's way, knowing that I was taking you out on stalker expeditions. You all had no idea what was going on. Daddy's a schmuck. Okay, eventually all you stalker dads are going to have to tell your wife and kids that. Okay, and a lot of you younger guys, the ones that like to take your significant other, maybe your girlfriend or your fiance, or maybe you're a newlywed with no kids, and you guys are taking your woman, your girlfriend, your fiance out on stalker expeditions, thinking that you're going to look like a big shot at the end of the day, but you end up looking like a total tool in front of your wife, in front of your fiance, in front of your girlfriend. Okay? And eventually one day her eyes are going to be opened by the bright light of exposition, and she's going to say, you know what? My husband, my fiance, my boyfriend used to take me out on stalker expeditions and put me in harm's way so the prick could get some practice in using signals with other stalkers. And what she'll probably do is she'll probably look you in the face, she'll probably slap you, and she'll walk out of your life for being such a schmuck. She doesn't want to be with a schmuck like you. Do you understand that? All right? Be honest with your wife. Be honest with your girlfriend. Be honest with your fiance. Because they're going to find out about you one way or another, you prick you. All right, one day she's going to look in the mirror and she's going to say to herself, do I want to be married to a schmuck? One day she's going to look at herself in the mirror and say, do I want to be engaged to a tool? All right, one day she's going to look herself in the mirror and say, do I want to be the girlfriend of a total prick? And you know what? She's going to answer no, 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 and she's going to walk away from you. And then you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to say, why did I do that tomfoolish thing around her? I could have gone out on a stalking expedition by myself. Got some practice in doing some signaling. Why did I take her? And you're going to smack yourself on top of the head and you're going to say, why did I do that? Now the woman in my life thinks I'm a total prick because she found out about me. She found out about gang stalking, and she found out that the man in her life actually took her out on dates that she thought was a date, but really it was a stalker expedition. And he was signaling people, and some of these people were targeted individuals. People who have been pushed to the edge by the society that they live in. And you exposed your wife to that, your kids, your fiance, your girlfriend, like a total prick. And one day your kids are going to find out about it, and your kids' friends are going to be talking to them about it in their high school. They're going to say, hey, does your dad do that gang stalking stuff? And you know what your kids are going to have to tell them? They're going to have to be like, yeah, that's my dad. He sure as hell does do gang stalking. And then your kids are going to be embarrassed, and they're going to be the talk of the school. Hey, did you hear about that? So-and-so's dad is a gang stalker. Is that the kind of life you want for your children? Is that the kind of life you want for your family? You want your kids' teachers mocking them and laughing at them knowing that their dad does gang stalking? And that their dad takes them on stalker expeditions and teaches them signals and stuff like that, knowing it's already been exposed. All this program has the capacity to do at this point is make this country look horrible. That's all it can do at this point. It's been exposed. It's been busted open. It's been laid wide open. It's been laid bare. There's nothing more that needs to be said or done. I'm going to keep doing videos. Okay, even if gang stalking were deleted or repealed tonight, I'm still gonna do videos. Why? Because at that point, I'll be able to put gang stalking in its proper place as a relic. You see, it's something we can all learn from. You see, some of you have relatives that have passed on or deceased. Some of you are religious. Some of you believe in the afterlife. Okay, your mother, your grandmother, do you want them looking down on you, or your maybe people from your paternal side, all your ancestors looking? Some people believe in the afterlife, that their deceased relatives can see them from another dimension or another realm, or maybe from heaven or purgatory or some other spiritual place, that they believe that their relatives are looking down on them. All right, I'm talking to all you gang stalkers right now, you liaisons, you undercovers, your deceased ancestors and immediate relatives, if they're looking at you from another dimension right now, are they proud of you for doing gang stalking, or are they ashamed of you? All right, me personally, I know if I were in another realm or another dimension and I saw a great grandson of mine participating in some clandestine thuggery, you know what I'd do? I'd ask Almighty God if I could go back to Earth just for a day, just for 24 hours, so I could walk up to that boy and tell him what a schmuck he looks like, participating in that. And then after telling them that, I'd say goodbye and I'd go back to the next dimension. Okay, some of you have relatives that were soldiers or military personnel or people who have served in distinguished capacities as judges or doctors or lawyers or politicians or ministers and pastors and evangelists and entrepreneurs, and they're deceased. And you carry on their legacy by conducting yourself in a tomfoolish manner from day to day. You don't take any days off. Stalkers don't take days off. They are constantly pestering on a daily basis, you see. You are doing a disservice to the memory of your ancestors. I don't care what race you are. You could be black, you could be Caucasian, Hispanic, Asian, Arab. It doesn't make me any difference. You're doing a disservice, a great disservice to your ancestors by participating in that tomthuggery that you participate in on a daily basis. Could you imagine how embarrassed your deceased ancestors would be if they were to look down on you from another dimension right now? You ever heard that phrase rolling around in your grave? If George Washington was able to see what's happening in America right now, he'd roll around in his grave. You remember that saying? It just means that you dishonor the legacy and the capacity to honor past persons, particularly past persons that were your kinfolk, when you act in a tomthuggish manner here on earth while you're living. Okay? Don't do your ancestors a disservice by acting like a tomfoolish knucklehead while you're here on the earth. Okay, you're leaving a stain on your reputation. You're making your family look horrible. You're making your church, your God, your country, you're making all of it look horrible when you act like such a way. And don't bother my significant other, Lori, either. She doesn't like gang stalkers either. She thinks you're tomthuggers. Okay, she thinks you're knuckleheads. She thinks you're everything that I say you are. She doesn't want to be bothered with y'all either. All right, tomfoolery, knuckleheadedness, degeneracy, deleteriousness, clandestine thuggery. I mean, there's so many adjectives that a man can use to describe clandestine gang stalking and its actors. Okay, a lot of the people that listen to my program that practice gang stalking themselves, they listen to me and they get very angry and upset. why is this man calling me a useful idiot? Why is this man calling me a tomthugger? Why is this man calling me tomfoolish? Why is this man calling me a baboon? Okay, why is this man calling me a useful idiot? Why is this man calling me a lemming? Okay, why is this man calling me a degenerate, low-life, scumbag prick? Okay, why is this man calling me a tool? Why is this man calling me a sissy? Why is this man calling me a schmuck? Well, how can you ask yourselves those questions? Do you not see what you do on a daily basis? You see, when I make these recordings, I do them with the expectation that the whole world is going to see it. You see, when I do these recordings, when I do these videos online, I do them with the expectation that the whole world is going to hear it. Okay? Listen, I don't care what country you are, America or whoever, you cannot use clandestine undercover operative blueprints throughout your country that are aimed at disrupting people's lives and making their lives, the quality of their lives less, so that the quality of people who think more like you can thrive. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional, you lunatic. You are being a maniacal jerk right now. Okay, and some of you stalkers are looking to the future. You're like, well, Smith, what about forgiveness? Well, what about it? All right, are you a Christian? Who do you believe in? And is whoever it is you believe in, do they forgive? All right then. If you want forgiveness, ask whoever it is you pray to at night for forgiveness. But I can tell you this, God does laugh. Okay, God laughs. God is a jovial man. Okay, he gets amused. He chuckles from time to time. He has a sense of humor and he does laugh. Okay, I can promise you if you practice clandestine gang stalking, the God you pray to at night, he might forgive you, but he's laughing at you while he does it. All right. Now, I say this out of a sense of duty to myself and to my country. Yes, I am a patriot, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a patriot. I'm a political dissident, but I am a patriot. Okay, I care about this country in which I live. I care about it because I live here and I want it to be as productive and as livable as possible. But at the same time, I live here, and I am a resident here because I don't live anywhere else in the world. I mean, I'm going to be honest, if another country were to offer me refuge, I would have to seriously consider it, despite being a patriot. You can be a patriot and defect. Patriotism is not blind loyalty to one's country. Patriotism is having a sense of responsibility to one's country. And I do have a sense of responsibility to my country. I do have a sense of responsibility to my country. And the reason I have a sense of responsibility to my country is because it has done right by me some. I mean, the first 18 years of my life, I feel like I lived a life that was conducive to one where a person could draw from his experiences and be successful in life. Okay, I've always enjoyed my constitutional freedoms, but right around the time I turned 30 years old, okay, now we're going to have to ask a few questions. Okay, President Ronald Reagan once said, and mind you, it's been a long time since I heard this quote, but I'm almost positive it was Reagan. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? I'm almost positive it was Ronald Reagan that said that, President Reagan, in the 1980s. And I've always had that mentality. And when the national security questions started heating up around 2007, and the national security conversation turned into one of well, you're going to have to give up some of your liberties in order to be safe, because we're going to have to surveil you and invade your privacy to a degree to make it easier to find people that would do harm to this country or its citizens. I was okay with that. I was a young person, 22 years old, but from then on, I knew that the country that we lived in was different post 9/11. And I accepted that as a United States citizen. I said, okay, I understand. I'm not going to make any bones about it. If the national security apparatus, if the intelligence apparatus needs more access to my data in order to make this country safer, just as it does so many millions of other Americans, that's fine. I'll do my best to be responsible online and in person so that I can be seen as an asset, not a detriment to my country. But let's see, that was 2007. 9 years later, I'm going on my computer asking, why am I being tailed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And why is it that I'm running into all these people left and right that appear to be obstructing my path, not only on foot, but in vehicles? Why is it that every time I go, and these are the things I'm Googling at the age of 30 years old, why is it that every time I go into a supermarket or any retail establishment, people are constantly nearly colliding into me in a synchronous fashion? And then I came across something called gang stalking. And what I was reading was so close to the truth that I knew that I was experiencing it. Even right now, I have people that are attempting to vilify my lecture, vilifying me so as to harm me or my significant other from behind the scenes. All right, I'm a person that has the tremendous capacity to live and let live. But if I'm being obstructed by my fellow Americans, and I believe that this obstruction is state sanctioned, I have to say something. Now, yes, I've been harsh. Yes, I've been critical with my words. And yes, I've taken on the posture of a political dissident. But that's because I believe my constitutional right to life, liberty, and happiness have been obstructed. Now, if I'm considered some kind of a threat to this country, or if anyone in the federal establishment believes that I need to be treated harshly by my fellow Americans so as to make things easier for other people who live in, quote, civil society, you're going to have to instruct me as to how that works. Because I'm calling it gang stalking, the political crime of the 21st century. Now, I'll say this. I believe Donald Trump is a decent man. I believe Governor Ron DeSantis is a decent man. And I believe that Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, who's the mayor of Miami-Dade County, is a good woman. And I believe that they all serve their country with integrity and distinction. And I believe that they have the capacity to want to correct wrongs. Okay? if you look at something like clandestine gang stalking, some people might say, well, just suck it up, pull yourself up by the bootstrap and live through it. No, the U.S. Constitution don't say nothing like that. The U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, they guarantee me life, liberty, and happiness. Philosophically and explicitly. So if I'm going to attain that life, liberty, and happiness, and mind you, I'm 40 years old, I don't see myself as being half gone. My stalkers do. As a matter of fact, some of my stalkers very snarkily walk around me and start glancing at their watches like, how much longer does this guy have on this earth? How much longer do we have to tolerate listening to this guy talk about gang stalking? You have to listen to me talk about gang stalking until it's over and done with. And then I'll talk about it as a relic, and then I'll be able to move on with my life amicably. But as this program, this mechanism continues to be sidestepped, denied, and as I continue to be vilified as a psychotic person for coming forward about this, I'm going to take offense to that, and I'm going to let you know exactly how I feel about that. I'm going to let you know how I feel about it. I'm only going to let you know administratively. I haven't joined any radical groups, and I don't plan to. I haven't joined any militia or any paramilitary group or anything like that. That's not my style. Okay? My style is handling my own business administratively under the dictates of what's legally admissible and what's legally lawful. Okay? Law, order, and a sense of justice is why I do what I do. And ultimately, I mean, it comes down to a very central question, a very prime question. Am I a U.S. citizen or am I not a U.S. citizen? Okay, Karl Marx was stateless. He was a citizen of no country. A number of people are stateless throughout history. There have been a number of stateless people throughout history. People who have gone through this life not being a citizen of any country. Maybe that's the posture I'll take. Okay, it's possible that there are other countries, and some of you are saying stuff to me through street theater like, go back to Africa. Those jabs are coming from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay, I got people from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who, which is a topic I'm going to talk about at some length tomorrow in a new lecture. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Part 8, Microcosm. All right, that's a lecture I'm going to do tomorrow. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit today because there are people that are sending me street theater from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints telling me go back to Africa. Well, if it were only that simple. I don't hold African citizenship. I don't hold citizenship in any African country. And even if let's say I were to apply for citizenship in Africa or Asia or Europe, it would be up to the federal establishments of those countries, customs and immigration, to either approve or deny my application. I'm sure there are other countries that have listened to persons of political stature who have heard my lectures and said I'd happily approve your application. It's a matter of applying to the right country. I know of a few countries that I wouldn't mind living in if it meant I could escape gang stalking. My significant other, Lori, she's very Americana. She's a baby boomer. She comes from a different generation than me. She wants to live in America forever. You know? Me personally, I'm constantly thinking of defecting. You know, there are a few countries that I've found that I've grown fond of over the past 10 years. But I said, you know what, it'd be interesting to live in that country instead of this one, especially if it means that I can attain life, liberty, and happiness. You see, the United States is not the only country that guarantees or supposedly guarantees the chance at life, liberty, and happiness for all its citizens. There are countries around the world that guarantee life, liberty, and happiness for their citizens. And I suspect that a few of those countries wouldn't mind having the guy that exposed gang stalking in the United States living there. Not that I'd move to any other country and look for reasons to defect from that country or raise a ruckus against that country. That's not my goal. That's not my objective. It wasn't my objective here in the United States. I wanted to work and pay taxes and raise a family and leave behind wealth for my offspring and contribute to American society, the American economy, the American history. I wanted to do all those things my entire life. When I find myself in a clandestine gang stalking campaign, it makes me essentially a non-citizen. None of my rights are respected. I'm constantly being disrupted. I can't work, basically. It's difficult to work because I'm being constantly synchronized, disrupted, and meddled with by stalkers. And there are stalkers in every workplace in the United States. It's an epidemic. It's a disease. It's something that has spread through this country like the coronavirus or some other virus or the bubonic plague or the Spanish flu or any of the diseases that the United States has had to fight over the past 100 years. Gang stalking is a sociological epidemic, and it has spread across this country like wildfires. And there's not a single workplace in the United States where there are people that don't participate in clandestine gang stalking. There ain't a single church that don't have somebody inside that practices it. There ain't a single school or university that doesn't have at least a group of people that practices clandestine gang stalking. You know, it's totally disruptive, it's hateful, it's evil, it's unconstitutional. And every targeted individual in this country that experiences it to the degree that they do is entitled to compensation from the federal government. You know, how do you prosecute this thing? How do you sue the federal government for putting you in a gang stalking campaign when there's no records of the U.S. federal establishment putting you in a gang stalking campaign? It just happens. How do you quantify just rude behavior as opposed to quantifying that behavior as clandestine gang stalking? You see, that's the discipline to being a targeted individual. At some point, you realize that what you're experiencing is not normal human behavior. At some point, you realize, hey, yeah, I'm in a clandestine gang stalking campaign, and there are a bunch of nincompoopish thugs from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds that are participating in it with the sole purpose of degrading the quality of your life. And it's not just rude behavior, it's people taking signals to you. And these signals are being sent by federal, state, and local governmental auxiliaries. Okay, that obviously originate in the Departments of Defense and Justice. I mean, I wish the federal government, which, I mean, again, I believe Donald Trump's a man of action. I think Attorney General Pam Bondi, I think she's a woman of action. I think the FBI Director Kash Patel, I believe he's a man of action. I think the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, I believe he's a man of action. There are a number of people that are in the executive offices of the Departments of Defense, the Departments of Justice, and in Trump's own executive offices that are people of action and are people who would probably disagree with gang stalking on its very face. I would like to see the executive offices of the President of the United States approach gang stalking with the same urgency that it has approached the illegal alien situation in Minnesota. I mean, there are thousands upon thousands of illegal migrants in Minnesota, and Attorney General Bondi, at the direction of President Trump, has initiated Operation Metro Surge, in which 3,000 Border Patrol agents from the ICE Border Patrol and Customs Enforcement Auxiliary have gone down into Minnesota using the power of the federal government, and they're rounding up thousands of illegal migrants. Many of them are involved in criminal behavior and deleterious activities. And that operation, they have stormed Minnesota in the name of rule of law, order, okay, among the chaos. Okay, law instead of lawlessness. Okay, and that operation so far has been a success. I think we've seen 4,000 arrests in just over 90 days now. Okay, I would like to see every gang stalker arrested in this country. Some people may say, well, what if you got 100 million gang stalkers? Arrest all 100 million of them. That's the only way you're going to relieve yourself from this menace. Well, we don't have enough room in our prisons for 100 million gang stalkers. Well, build new ones. You could section off entire sections of the state for prisons to hold great gang stalkers in them. Okay, you could do one gang stalker to a cell. You could do two gang stalkers to a cell. Okay, you could take $1 trillion and start building prisons all around this country, and essentially siphoning off parts of the county for the building of massive prisons. And then you could use the example of Operation Metro Surge, and you could use the power of the Department of Defense and the power of the Department of Justice to storm every neighborhood, every workplace, every business, every church, and every institution, just like Joseph Stalin did. You don't have to do like he did and exterminate people, but you could storm every establishment using the power and resources of the U.S. federal government, and you could round up every gang stalker and stuff them into these prisons and charge them individually. All right, it would be shock and awe. It'd be something this country never forgets. I can promise you, wouldn't nobody ever use this program ever again, ever. No one would ever use gang stalking again if you did such a thing, but it's going to take that kind of bravado, that kind of might, that kind of legal power and maneuvering, that kind of shock and awe, that kind of boots on the ground mentality. All right, similar to Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota. Imagine if Operation Metro Surge were aimed at rounding up gang stalkers in Minnesota. You see how effective it would be? If these ICE operatives are able to mobilize themselves throughout the state of Minnesota and round up that many thousands of illegal immigrants, many of which have no documentation at all, that is a giant task. And it takes immense resources and manpower to accomplish such a task. Finding undocumented persons who are in hiding in a state as freezing cold as Minnesota, doing that in the dead of winter like this, and still you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of arrests. It's a beautiful mechanism. And I think the Attorney General's office and the office of the FBI and the Departments of Defense and Justice and President Trump and his executive office, I think they deserve full credit for implementing this program and making it work. Imagine if that same law enforcement creativity and aggression were used to round up every gang stalker here in the United States. Imagine how how wonderful that would be. Okay, it would change history. And if it were any different, I, your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, would tell you. Okay, if it's going to be left up to me, if I'm the one that has to change history, okay, I'll do it. All right, if I'm the one that has to change history, I'll do it. But I would like to see an operation like Operation Metro Surge happen throughout the country. And not just the contiguous United States, but also in Hawaii and Alaska. You storm the city, you storm every city using the full power of your military, and you round up every gang stalker. They're not difficult to find. And you stuff them in specialized prisons, awaiting trial, just like the Nuremberg trials of Nazi Germany. All right, you stuff them in those prisons and you make them await trial for their crimes against targeted individuals. It would change history. Okay, give me an army tank on every street corner. Give me F-22 Raptor fighter jets above every neighborhood. Give me drones in every hospital, every college, every workplace, every neighborhood. All right, give me soldiers with AR-15s in every parking lot in America. Give me F-16 fighter helicopters over every university. Okay, storm the border with Army Rangers and the U.S. Coast Guard, so no illegals are coming in, adding to the stalker count. All right, give me Secret Service agents in every vicinity in this country, doing nothing but looking for people giving signals to each other. Okay, I guarantee you in 365 days, gang stalking will be no more. You could call it Operation Thunderbird. And I can promise you, you do that, there'll be no more gang stalking in this country. Nowhere in the country. After 1 year of that, no more gang stalking. And then you will have changed history. And the United States population will see, you know what? Never again will the citizens of this country get together and try to hijack society in such a way. Because now you know what the reaction will be. Now you know what the response will be. Thank you for tuning in.